Hi guys, breaking down more baits and techniques, and today we're going over the split shot rig. So the split shot rig is a classic time-tested bass fishing rig. It's been catching them for decades and decades, and it still works phenomenally these days, although it's become a little bit unpopular because of the emergence of so many other finesse rigs like the Ned rig, the shaky head, the drop shot, the Nico rig. There's so many more modern, flashy, popular techniques that it's become a little bit slept on, a little bit underrated in my opinion, but it still catches them better than ever and often can even outproduce the more popular modern day finesse techniques. Now, what is a split shot rig and how do you rig it? So real quick, what it is, essentially it's a very finesse Carolina rig. Very downsized, lightweight, finesse Carolina rig. You rig it the exact same way, it's built the same way, and you fish it exactly the same, except it's much more finesse, much more subtle, so when the bite gets tough, you can still catch them with that profile, that presentation. Now, when it comes to the rigging, starting off with the hook, you're going to go with a bit of a light wire worm hook. My favorite hook is a 2/0 offset worm hook. It's a nice light wire, downsized hook, and I do prefer the offset style of hook just because the EWG hook is, you don't really need it since I'm using finesser, thinner baits. You don't really need that extra wide gap. And the offset style of hook does have a bit higher hookup ratio compared to the EWG. I'll put up a little diagram as to why that is, but I do prefer the offset over an EWG. You can also use like a finesse straight shine hook. A lot of guys love those. They work just fine. I don't really use them, but it's nothing against them. The offset is just my favorite. Now, the next thing, and really the only other thing, is the weight. And it's just going to be about 10 to 12 inches up in front of your hook. You're going to attach a little split shot weight. When it comes to the exact weight, you don't got to be too specific, in my opinion. I don't even know really how much these weigh. I would guess a 1/10 to an 1/8 ounce is pretty much perfect. Most of the time you just kind of find split shots laying around in your tackle box, so who knows how much they actually weigh. But around the 1/10 to 1/8 ounce is kind of the perfect weight in my opinion. A quick way to be more advanced split shot rig, to kind of take it to the next level, is to swap out the split shot for actually a bullet weight and then just use a bobber stop peg to secure it in place up above your hook. That can help when you're fishing grass and vegetation because the bullet weight is just more pointed, so it comes through softer vegetation easier. But for the most part, most of the time, I'm just using little split shots like these. They work just fine. Cheap lead split shot weights. You can get a million of them for like $5, so they're really cheap and easy to use. One tip I do have, if you're using the classic split shot shape, I would suggest kind of angling it round ball head of the split shot forward, just so that it's more, comes through cover a little bit better, drags through stuff without catching quite as easier, because the round shape of that split shot is up in front. It just glides over the bottom and leafy stuff and vegetation a little bit easier. But anyway, the split shot rig is incredibly easy. It's pretty much just a hook and a little lead split shot weight. If you do want to advance it to more of a bullet shaped sinker, that can work just fine as well. If you're fishing vegetation, it can be a little bit better. But for the most part, a lightweight, 1/10 to 1/8 ounce weight, about 10 to 12 inches above a light wire worm hook. Now, when it comes to these soft plastic baits that you're going to choose for the split shot rig, just try to keep it simple. You can use a wide variety of stuff, but less is generally more. That's why my favorite is their straight tail worms, like a Cinco profile or like a finesse worm. The 4 to 5 inch worm range is just my favorite. You can branch out to more creature bait styles and some swimming, some lizards, maybe like a fluke style even, but just try to downsize it. Less is more. This is a finesse technique. You don't want a whole lot of action down there, and too much swimming, too much appendages will just cause your bait to rise up too much in the water. You want to keep it low, like I'll discuss here in a minute, but less is generally more. My favorite is just a straight tail worm, but whatever subtle plastic you like will work great. Now, when it comes to the retrieve for a split shot rig, again, it's exactly like you would a Carolina rig. You're going to cast it out, let it sink to the bottom. It might take an extra couple of seconds because it's very lightweight, but once it gets down to the bottom, you just slowly drag it back in, all the way back to the boat or back to the bank, and just slowly drag it. And because that bait or the soft plastic and the hook don't have a weight directly attached to them, they're going to slowly glide along, weightless essentially, just on or just off above the bottom. And it's going to look really natural, really good. And that's why it shines so much. The exact same reason as a Carolina rig does, but it's finesse, it's downsized, lighter line, lighter weights, and when the bite gets tough, it's a perfect way to catch them. Now, one tip I do have for the retrieve: most of the time when you're fishing baits and you're dragging them, you vertically drag your rod tip upwards. It gives you more sensitivity. It helps you control that bait a little bit better. But with the split shot rig, I suggest sweeping your rod to the side, putting your rod tip down, and going sideways. What this does is it keeps the whole rig down on the bottom a lot easier because it's such a lightweight split shot. If you vertically raise up, often the split shot and the whole rig just rises too far up off the bottom. So keep your rod tip down and sweep to the side. You don't really need as much sensitivity because it's such a lightweight anyway, and that sideways sweep is going to help keep your whole profile, your whole bait down on the bottom where you want it to be. So it's a super easy retrieve. You're just casting it and then dragging it all the way back in. And because you're dragging it as opposed to like shaking it or hopping it or pausing it like you do a lot of other finesse rigs, you can actually cover a lot of water with the split shot rig, which is one of its big advantages. And why when it comes to the location to fish a split shot rig, instead of more target oriented casting to a piece of structure or a drop off, you're kind of fishing this in just shallow, expansive flats. If you're like a pond or bank fisherman, you can pretty much fish it everywhere because if you're a pond fisherman, normally your whole pond is just one shallow flat. They usually don't get that deep or have that many contours. And then if you're just a bank fisherman, even if you are on a big lake, normally the shallow waters are pretty consistently shallow, flatty areas. So it's a great way to cover a ton of water. Even though it's a slow drag, it's still a lot faster than most other finesse techniques. If you're a pond fisherman, bank fisherman, or if you're just out on a boat and you're fishing an expansive, shallow flat, it's a great way to cover a ton of water and get the bass to bite when the bite is a bit tough. Maybe bass are finicky, maybe the conditions aren't ideal. The split shot rig covers a lot of water and there's shallow, expansive flats, and the bass will pretty much always bite it. And when it comes to when to fish it, like I just explained, you pretty much want to fish it when the bite is tough, when the bass are a bit finicky. In terms of seasonality, you can fish it 12 months out of the year. It's a year-round technique for sure. One of my favorite times to fish it is the heart of winter because the bite just gets really tough in the winter. And it's one of my favorite and one of the best ways I've found to catch them when the bite's really tough in the winter. But any time of year when you need to go finesse, when the bass aren't really biting very well, you can't catch them on power techniques, that's when you throw a split shot rig pretty much the same time you throw any finesse technique. But it gives you a bit different presentation compared to the more popular techniques out there, and some different advantages, like you can cover more water like I discussed. So pretty much whenever the bite gets tough year round, you tie on a split shot rig and you're going to be able to catch them. And then when it comes to the water clarity, I wouldn't really fish it in really muddy water because with most finesse techniques, it's kind of hard for the bass to find in really muddy water. It doesn't have that much displacement or vibration, but as long as the water has a little bit of visibility from mildly stained all the way up to ultra clear, it's a really good technique. I just wouldn't fish it in the heart of really muddy chocolate milk water, but every other situation, the clarity isn't a big issue. It'll still catch them. And when it comes to the gear to fish a split shot rig, this is a finesse technique. I pretty much fish it on my standard do everything finesse setup, a spinning combo, about a medium to medium heavy action rod. Then I like 12-pound test braided mainline to an 8-pound test fluorocarbon leader. You can also use a mono or copolymer leader if you want, but a low visibility, lightweight, about an 8-pound test leader, and then a 12-pound mainline braid is my favorite finesse setup for pretty much everything, and it works just well with this. Alright guys, that's pretty much everything you need to know to fish the classic split shot rig. It's one of my absolute favorite techniques and one of the best finesse techniques. It always has been for decades and decades and really still is. So thanks for watching and feel free to subscribe if you want.